Peace and love, family. Can you hear me?
Salam, salam. Yeah, can you hear me?
Salam. Yes. Give me 1 second and we'll get it going.
Oh yeah, take your time. I'm doing a couple of things here and kind of laughing at this. I know you're not watching it, but they have the debate going on right now, and it's
What debate?
yeah, huh?
Which one? What debate?
The Trump versus Biden debate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Biden's facial expressions, he looks so confused. And during the middle of one of his rebuttals, he just went blank.
Oh, I knew that was gonna happen.
How are you, so quote unquote leader? I mean, this whole thing is a joke. If this doesn't show people this thing is a joke, I don't know what else.
Yeah. I mean, I already predicted that.
You predicted what?
The freeze ups.
Oh, the freeze up, yeah. That's
I was like, this is not.
I mean, but it's heavy though. It's not even light freeze up. I mean, this is like, why are you even on stage freeze up? You know?
It's been like that, bro, for years. Straight up.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just the fact that the position that, they created, right? And a lot of people believe this position to hold clout, weight, whatever it may be. And it's just hilarious to me that he can't even place or order a Taco Bell without having problems. How is this man supposed to handle the challenges of geopolitics or nation building or anything?
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. For those of y'all who are just tuning in, or if you catch it at this point, we are about to go in on part 2 of the origins of the ancient Egyptians. And we were just discussing the Biden-Trump debate. And apparently, my brother just reported Biden froze up during a question. So we just wanted to just let you guys know what we were just building on. But we're going to jump right in. As you can see, Brother Nakfa, let me turn this music off here. All right. So we going to get started. This is against the grain for the time being. I'm going to play the little logo. People can tell me what you think about it. Definitely Nakfa, let me know what you think. I've been kind of sitting on this for a minute until I got ready to start expanding my media empire.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, high vibration. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's the vibe we rolling on. And as you can see, we got a map up here. This map has come up several times in our conversations, brother. Would you want to tell us a bit about this map, and then we're gonna go in and play that video clip that we had issues with last week.
Right. So one thing that when people look at this map, they have to understand is that there's a reason why it's called the Erythraean Sea, right? And when we understand the title of this room, even connecting back just for what we were saying earlier, as far as these individuals debating each other, the people that have been running the world.
Your voice is a little bit muffled.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just a little muffled. Kind of sound like you're in a box almost.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm actually in the room walking back and forth.
Okay.
Um, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Am I coming in? Okay.
you coming in
So
this cool right
yeah.
now. Yep.
Okay. So this map is showcasing, at least for me, one of many things. First is connecting this water that was being traversed, right, by an ancient group of people that come from the very same place, the only country in this world is called Eritrea, and it's fittingly so called the Erythraean Sea, right? When we look at many expeditions that were made, not just the Egyptians, right, but other individuals and other cultures were coming to this port of Andalus in Eritrea, modern day Eritrea. And that's why there are books like this. There is maps called the Erythraean Sea. That's why when you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, guess what? You're going to see Eritrea in there too. That's why every time when we talk about from last connecting last shows to this show, the ancient Egyptians and where did they come from? That's what we're trying to paint a picture for you guys today and the coming the future shows on Against the Grain. So keep one thing in mind, right? When we're looking at this history and we're talking, you guys, remember the attributes, right? Because this is huge. To name a sea after somebody, and rightfully so to do it, not just to say it because you wanted to call it whatever you'd like to call it, but you had to have some kind of understanding of who was traveling these waters. It is as clear as day that we can see going to Tamil, which is ancient India. And in Tamil, when you even pull out the brother Renoko Rashidi's book, he will show you, right, how he connects certain dots back into East Africa. Well, it's only showing you so many ports alongside that Red Sea. And once again, the one country named after the Red Sea, Eritrea, Eritrean Sea, um, we're starting to paint a picture here, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully. So one thing is for sure, has nothing to do with Ethiopia, because that's another term that gets used by a lot of scholars when they talk about ancient Egyptians. It has nothing to do with Ethiopians whatsoever, right? So this is another reason why we're showing you guys these slides. So when you're looking at history and people are telling you Ethiopian, you should know it's not, kind of similar to what Noble Drew Ali would teach, right? He would tell you it's not. So when we start to understand this history of individuals that have worked with these same Europeans, these same colonizers that have affected us all, then we'll start to realize what's really going on. So just to kind of touch on that on this map real quick.
Yeah, no, that was really insightful, and I think you are starting to paint the picture. Because one thing that I picked up on as you were speaking, I'm looking at all of the different ports, and I'm noticing, and I've I've been aware of this map for about 15 years or so. Um, but what I'm noticing is that if the Indian Ocean was the Eritrean Sea, that means all of these ports uh, in this sea belong to Eritrea. Uh,
Well, wait,
to some to some extent.
just to yeah, just to touch on that a little bit even more. The most sacred river in Tamil is named after an East African. And that
Mm,
right there in future episodes, we're gonna talk about a little bit more because then we're gonna showcase how in ancient times it could have only been so many kingdoms that were doing this in East Africa. And
yep.
the beauty about over the years using Clubhouse and now being on Twitter, finally going to be, we're doing the YouTube, is that we get to bring in individuals from East Africa. We get to bring in individuals from around the world and have these conversations and say, hey, look, in your part of the world where you are at, did you hear about any of this? And then they tell us, no, we don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, well, over here, the colonizers got people believing something crazy. I just want to confirm that the history is still what it's supposed to be. It's like when you go into an Ethiopian museum, most of it's going to say Eritrean.
Mm,
You know, when you go into a British museum, most of it's going to say African.
yeah.
So it's just this weird game that certain Africans have played amongst other Africans, and it's unfortunate because if they didn't, maybe we'd all be in a different position right
And that gets really to the point why this channel itself is called the Moorish Diaspora. It's like the more I dig into history itself, especially into what we're speaking on right now, I'm finding more and more that the origin of who we know today as the Moors comes directly. I found some great sources today. Hopefully, we'll have time to share some stuff. So, if you're watching, definitely get your tea, get your water, maybe pop some popcorn because it's going to get interesting. We're going to play some stuff. Some of the stuff is going to be, if you will, against the grain. Historically, things that haven't been really touched on or pushed forward. Like some, obviously, the research has been done. The data is there, but I don't see many people dealing with it. So we're gonna move forward. Let me see what this next slide looks like. Ah, let me know if you can.
now. I can't hear it if it's. I know I see it playing, but I just can't hear it.
Hold on, let me pause. So if you kind of remember what it said, um, this is basically the clip that you posted on social media. I just re-downloaded it and re-clipped it, so it's about a minute long, starting at that same point from where you started from. The sound is playing on here, um, so if you're not able to hear it, you'd probably have to be able to hear it on the YouTube page. But I'm just gonna let it play. I'm gonna back it up and let it play just for the people, and then what you remember from that clip, you can definitely go in because it'll be right on time.
I mean, I think at this point they've already said Eritrea, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So I just got one question for the individual that created this video because I have not heard anybody in this conscious community bring up Eritrea prior to I started bringing it up. You know, so it was that was like the first thing that caught my eye, and then the second thing is it's not to say the information like he isn't onto something, but it's to find out where did you get that information? Like, because I haven't heard any of the brothers talk about that, you know, especially since I know who this individual has worked with. I'm like, I know for a fact, hey, if anything, we'll talk about Ethiopia, you
Hey, so
know,
again,
a lot of. Mhm.
we're not trying to offend anybody, but if just so that people know who we're talking about, I don't want to be vague. I just want to make sure that if the people are out there and they do hear this, that they know who we're talking about. So, you know, feel free to.
Well, I
Everybody.
mean, it's all of them at this point, right? Because I've heard every single one of them bring up Ethiopia. So it really it's up to the to the listeners to go and just type in conscious community and see what they say about East Africa. They always talk about this Ethiopia. They'll tell you they're so Afrocentric, but they'll push this Ethiopia down your throat when they didn't write no Bible. They're not connected to no to any of that. Their kingdoms aren't older than the ones you find in Eritrea. The language that is dominant, right, in Ethiopia comes out of Eritrea, which is Ge'ez, which is another connection to this
So
video because
let me
he's talking
stop
about the
you.
Phoenicians.
Let me stop you there because I want you to hold that thought. I'm gonna scroll through a few of these slides and I'm gonna get up to where you're talking about so that people have some references. As you can see, I've been doing my due diligence, and
Yes, sir.
you know what I'm saying, I'm making sure I'm touching all the points that need to be touched. Um, excuse me, and we can backtrack and touch on each of these things as we go. But let's boom. So you mentioned Giz, right?
Oh, there it is. Matara Eritrea.
So
Exactly.
can I say something about this real quick before you move
Go
forward?
ahead. And there's a lot to be said too. That,
There's a lot. There's a
especially
whole
since we got the title Egypt. But go ahead.
so all right. So one thing I've noticed is the dating bit of the Giz language is based on this particular uh, scripts that are available on this obelisk in Eritrea, right? Um, and that being uh, 5,000 years ago, you know. So this is dated to 5,000 years ago, which gives it peculiarly enough this title right here. So I don't know if you could see that. Hopefully that's big enough. Um,
Is it the one that talks about it's the father of all languages?
that's right. So
Yeah, I didn't even have to see it. I just said because I saw where you was trying to connect the dots to.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it's saying is Giz the oldest language. It says Giz language is believed by scholars to be circa 5,000 years old, making it the oldest of all languages, considered the father language. The language is still spoken today by southern Semitic peoples like the Ethiopian and Eritrean peoples. And you know, of course, we're going to deal with Ethiopian, but for the conversation, one thing that I, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like it makes you feel kind of crazy because you know better than to use certain terminology, but for the psychology of dealing with other people who may not be aware of certain things, it's pretty interesting. You know how you have to be, what should I say, flexible to some extent, so that people understand what you're saying. You get what I mean?
100%. It has to be palatable for the consumers or whoever you're trying to put this information to.
There you go. All right. So that's a little bit better. So when I put these up and they're a little small, I'm gonna try to blow them up, and so that way people can see the source there at the bottom if they want to look that up. But please go back and say what you were saying about Giz. And as you go along, I do have some other slides dealing with Giz, so I'll probably stop you just to kind of show and prove or to demonstrate what you're speaking on. Okay.
No worries. Yep. So exactly. So once again, the one thing though, I don't like to deal too much with is these dates that they give because, and you remember 3 years ago they weren't really saying this, right? Even when we would look this up and people would just do the Google on Clubhouse,
Yeah.
that you know it would just pop up as something completely different. So I feel
I,
like we touched into this algorithm and people are starting to realize because there are linguists like Christopher Ehret. that shows you where he breaks down the language family tree, and it connects you to certain places. When you go into certain parts of East Africa, like right now, presently, if anybody just Googled Sudan, they would see a place called Kassala. Kassala would be part of Sudan. You ask anybody, and I've asked them too, they would say this is Nubia. Matter of fact, if you Google it, if you Google Kassala dot and just pull it up, it will show you Sudan, right? But if you
Can
go
you
to
spell it for me?
Kassala, yeah,
Spell it for me.
Kass, yeah, Kassala, Kassala, yeah, Kassala, Sudan,
Uh-huh.
and then pull up the there should be a if you can get a map so we can show the viewers where it's located because so that
Is that
people
pretty
call
decent?
Nubia, yeah, which most people call Nubia because then there's other landmarks like the Nile that people can clearly see the water. So, but the reason
Yeah,
why we're
let me see if
showcasing
I can get a better map while you do that.
okay,
Let me
the
try.
reason why we're showcasing this is because this is one of the revisionist or this I don't know underhand about history they're doing, right? They're changing the history completely, but they'll tell you Kessala is a Nubian, ancient Sudanese, blase blah. This is actually Edicha, ladies and gentlemen. If you visit this place, this is Edicha. If you go and get there's a book called well, I could just read out of the book where it shows how parts of Edicha was partitioned to Sudan and Ethiopia, right?
Mm.
When we start to look at the connections of these individuals that were behind it, then you actually see a bigger picture of why Editor has been shut out for a simple fact the original Bible is written in Ge'ez. It's a Shemitic language, right? That comes out of Editor. The
Hmm.
these sick people that are running around throwing off the balance of the earth and the vibration, right? Because I truly believe we're energy, right? Some people are tapped into the wrong energy because all they want to do is destruction, right? They just want to go through, what is it? Coming through, man, coming from and to the earth or through the earth, doing as I please. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but
Right.
it's some devil stuff. It's sick stuff, low vibration. It ain't high vibration, right? So when we start to understand that and see, these are the same individuals that that they were fighting. These are the same individuals. Those bloodlines have been remaining the same. So it was only right for them to wipe Eddie out of history, everything they've ever done. Because when you look at the first church in all of Africa, right? And I can, debate the world, but let's just stick with Africa for now. The first church in Africa is in Eritrea. The first mosque in Africa is in Eritrea. The oldest Semitic language is in Eritrea. We're demonstrating how Editor connects to Tamil, India. When you go talk to an individual that does a human genome, well, you can't talk to him, but he has YouTubes and videos. Shin Lee or Jin Lee out of Shanghai University, connecting certain groups back to East Africa. Uh, what we're showing you guys is it's actually Eritrea that we should have been focused on instead of Ethiopia or Nubia and Kush. Because you actually have Eritreans that are Kushites. But they don't tell you that, right?
Hmm.
They don't tell you that Moreau was subservient to Dumont or Adalus, which is in Eritrea. When you pick up a book like Throne of Adalus, it breaks it down about a script that's written in Giz. We've already broke down that in Matara, Eritrea, there's a stele, there's an obelisk, same obelisk, right? You see all through Egypt, same obelisk you see in DC, right? And then when you break it down, Atara, you take
Hmm.
that A, put in between before the T, that's Ma'at, and then Ra. Ma'at and Ra, Matara. So people don't, you know what I mean? Like I could do crazy stuff like that all
Let,
day and show
let
the
me let me stop you for
connections.
one quick second. Let me stop you one quick second because I wanna because you're dropping like major bombs right now, and like I want to reverse so they can see the slow motion of the bombs you just dropped. So say understand. So you just said the first church in all of Africa. So this here says Deborah Sina in Tigrinya is a monastery in the highlands of Eritrea near Karen in the Ansiba region. It was founded in the 4th century by Saint Abba Salama, making it one of the oldest churches in the world. Okay. So, you know, this is I think this is pretty key here because what you just told us about Kasala, right? Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, Kasala.
Kasala. So when I first looked this up, right, it says the earliest known physical evidence of a church in sub-Saharan Africa is 4th century AD, a basilica that was excavated in 2016 at Beta Samati in northeastern Ethiopia. You see that?
And then if we get the map, right, and we
Yeah.
show the ladies and gentlemen that where
Mhm.
Eritrea is located, you'll see that is northeast. But for some reason,
Yeah.
and we're gonna break this down in future videos, why
Yeah.
it's like that. But go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to just clear that up because when I just typed it in, oldest church in Africa, it gave me northeastern Ethiopia. But when I said oldest church in Africa and added Eritrea, it like cleared it up. Oh, this monastery is in the highlands of Eritrea near Karen in the Ansiba region, etc. Um, then let me go back to these slides here because you also made a claim that I think is key that a lot of
Mosque.
yeah you made the claim of the mosque, right? So let me see. I have that in here somewhere. Where did I put? Oh, hold up. All right, mosque. Oh, it's at the top. I'm tripping. Let's see. Oh, did I remove that by accident? Oh, here it is. All right. So Africa's first mosque, Sahaba Mosque, Massawa, Eritrea, built between 610 and 620, believed to be the first mosque on the African continent and the first mosque in the world, built by the companions of Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century.
And you got to ask yourself, why would they go from anywhere in the world? Why would they go to Eritrea first and then build the mosque? If Ethiopia, like, I'm not trying to pick on Ethiopia, but one thing for sure, two things for certain, a lot of the history has been given to people wrong, right? So we're just trying to show you guys where the fallacies lie. So when there was an issue, guess what? He said, and peace be upon him, go ahead, go to East Africa, go to Eritrea, and you will be safe. So when we look at this place is already being named what? The land of gods, right? Doing
Oh,
things mere men cannot do. And then you got the first church, the first mosque. I mean, people need to start giving it like a little bit of respect here, or they just, I mean, I'm starting to think they just don't know better because I don't know how they can get, I don't know.
gotta put some respect in the name, bro. You got to. So let's
100%. Yeah,
dive
yeah.
into that just a little. Let's dive in just a little bit here. Let's see here. Can you see that?
Yeah, Tanetta.
So, yep, Taneter. At times, the ancient Egyptians called Punt Taneter, meaning God's land. This referred to the fact that it was among the regions of the sun god, which, this can be debated. That is, the regions located in the direction of the sunrise to the east of Egypt. You know, sometimes when you get certain stuff, it'll they'll go off target to kind of throw you off the main path of what's really going on. But if we dig a little bit deeper, because I mean that's a great point. The land of Punt is Eritrea. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what this one says. Why is the land of Punt famous? The land of Punt, Egyptian, alternate Egyptological readings, Puene, was an ancient kingdom known from ancient Egyptian trade records. It produced and exported gold, aromatic resins, black wood, ebony, ivory, and wild animals. Recent evidence located it in northwestern Eritrea. Okay. I can keep going. I got many slides on Punt, but please continue. I just wanted to show and prove as you say stuff, because last time we had some technical difficulties, so I just want to make
Right.
sure we're covering things and showing people what's going on.
Right. And then, I mean, just as far as like symbolism, right? When we look at the oldest archaeological site in all of East Africa, it's in Eritrea. It's in symbol, similar to like Abdu symbol. When you start going and looking at certain landmarks now, and where Abdu symbol fits, when you go on that cataracts or the Exodus route. So another connection to Egypt. Um, when we, like I said here, what I said last time, Nakfa, the word Nakfa, that means something completely different in our language, right? But it's odd that every time a lot of the images show wings. So when you can connect those wings that they start to show and what that word means, then shows a little bit of a connection. What else? The Ankh symbol. That's a beautiful thing connecting Gitters. So when you look at the most sacred symbol in ancient Egypt, and you go and look at the Gitters alphabet, you will actually be able to locate it within the
Okay,
Gitters alphabet.
let's do that. I don't know if I have the complete alphabet on
Mm.
here, but I do have some is writing. Let's see.
We should
All
be
right.
able. I can't see that. Let me see. If you when you see it, you'll see it. You'll know it. I just gotta see
Oh, I
where.
see it. Okay, it's
Right.
at the bottom, the second row from the right. From the bottom, the fourth one up.
Alright.
It's the fourth symbol up. I'm gonna
One,
make it
two,
a little
three,
bit.
four.
I'm gonna make it bigger.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. There you go. There you go. So not and then I mean when we start looking actually at these letters here, these this alphabet, we can actually plug and play the style in which this is written, and you could see it in many other different parts of the world, right? You can see it in Mesopotamia, because if it's Shemitic, it's going to look similar to this 100%. Otherwise, it's not Shemitic. And then we got to remember, where does that word even come from? How did they connect it? They kept connected back to a biblical time. Well, the first individual that made us aware of this was Musa, not Moses or Moshe, because remember, we're in East Africa. So when we understand that, then we start to make sense of what has been going on. Like the song, what's going on? What's going on? We got to really.
So I don't know if you can see that there. Just speaking of what you're saying, right?
Mhm. Considered even
So
older than it is 100% older than Hebrew. It's older than, and here's the nonsense, right? A lot of people will
mhm.
use the King James version, right? But that King James version cannot predate, first of all, the Greeks in Moses' time or Musa, right? When we're looking at these first five books, they weren't talked about. There's no mention of these people whatsoever. There's not one single mention of these individuals. How is it possible that they, some Johnny come latelys, have this figured out? You know, this is clearly a translation. But when you look at Twahido, right, which that's what the Bible is called, and Twahido means one. It's not a version. It's not a copyright. It is the original.
Got it. So right there, I just was backing up what you said there. It says is the classical language, and of course here it says Ethiopia. We just gonna, we're gonna work with that for a second because we know what we're really saying. And we can get into that a little bit more so that we can kind of clear up any confusion around that. As a member of the Semitic language family, its relatives include familiar languages like Hebrew and Arabic. Now, notice it said it's familiar languages. So that's a reference to family, right? The reason why I bring that up is because what was the first thing we said about Giz? It is considered the father in the family of languages, the Semitic languages specifically. And I'd argue possibly the father of all language, based on uh, not only our conversations, but my findings since. So, this is something that really requires more in depth study by those who are interested in studying linguistics, language, the history of language, and the connections between the languages. There's so much to get into, Dylan, here with the Giz. But yeah, please continue.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I mean, we've covered pretty decent amount. You know, this when it comes to is these languages, um, these kingdoms, connecting. At the end of the day, what we're doing is once again connecting the dots back to Editor, because that is, and when we look at symbolism too, you know, the beginning of that crescent and where it is, right, and what is that supposed to
You,
symbolize when we looked
you
at?
want to go
Go
back
ahead.
to you want to go back to the alphabet?
No, we don't have to go back to the alphabet. But those alphabets, right? We, like I said, we can see that across the world, literally that similar style on where they got it from. Because if it's the father of all languages, then obviously when these individuals navigated, right, to these faraway places, they were using a certain language.
That's
And
right.
what's crazy to me is that when you connect ancient Egypt to Editor, people will say, oh, well, nobody understands any language or the language that was spoken in ancient Egypt. When throughout throughout the year, or well, not the years, but throughout history, right, they tell you to multiple different times in history that Egypt was doing commerce with Editor, the land of Punt. So to do commerce with someone, you have to what? You have to be able to speak the language. How am I going to do
Facts.
commerce with you if I can't communicate with you?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like simple common sense things that people don't really like uh, hold tight when they hear it because they'll go over it. You know, I've heard them all say, "Oh yeah, uh, you know, well we've learned through our studies that the travels and the journeys they've been through were to many places, and one of those places was the land of plenty." And then they'll go to Champion was the one that broke it down because without him we wouldn't have been able to. What?
Mm.
What are you talking about? Why are you why are you saying you're screaming you Afrocentric? But then really, low key, you kind of just really not. You know, you're eccentric at heart and you don't even know it subconsciously because a lot of the information you're spewing don't make sense to us that are from that part. And what's crazy is they'll get like brothers and sisters from West Africa to speak on East Africa history. That's crazy. You should speak with people from these areas and ask them. Don't be afraid to say, hey, have you heard of any of this? Does this make sense to you? And we
Mm.
will tell you. So at the end of the day, all roads don't lead to Rome, but they lead to home, and that's Editor. The Eritrean Sea, the periplus of the Eritrean Sea, the memorandum, what is it? It's called the memorandum something Eritrea. That's another set of information. What else did they? Oh, there's also when we start to break down like Yemen. Oh man, there's a whole kings list of ancient Eritreans in the Yemen kings list that
Mm.
people have never even touched on, which I think is phenomenal to me because it just shows from a certain story that's told about a king that went north, east, south, and west and conquered, right? A ruler.
Mhm.
And when we see these connections from ancient Egypt to these landmarks in Ethiopia or Sudan, Kush, Yemen, and you see that it connects back to Eritrea, all the way to Tamil, to Eritrea. I mean, we're talking about some of the most ancient civilizations in history because we cover the Indus Valley, we cover Mesopotamia, we cover Sabians, ancient Egyptians, Kush,
That's
right?
right.
And it all goes right back to Eritrea.
So let me I'm gonna slow up again. I'm gonna back it up, and then I'm gonna bring it back to what you were just talking about because I mean I literally have slides on everything you're saying just about except for the King's List. I don't have that yet, so that's what I will be doing some research on. So rem- you you told me about a conversation you had with the brother that goes by the name Captain Tazariak, right?
Oh yeah, that
And you
guy. That dude
and,
is so
and
he's
you
a
all
walking contradiction.
and you
That brother is a
you also put me on to a debate that happened 3 months ago with one of his underlings, uh, who
oh
does look
yeah.
very European. So I
He looked
was,
like a colonizer, right?
yeah, it was very interesting. And listening to his conversation and listening to Zariak, and it's interesting because I haven't listened to them or anything that Zariak has said in quite some time. I don't, generally listen to him. I have seen a debate with him years ago, so I mean, I thought he was a little more level headed, but when I went back and watched the video that you had your conversation with him, and you were right. He was pretty disrespectful and, you know, quite egotistical in his stance without having much information to go on. So here's one of the things that I wanted to touch on briefly about the Hebrew language, also associated with the Ge'ez language. So it says here Hebrew, but it's specifically to a point that Tazariak had made about not being African. And it says Hebrew is part of the Canaanite language group and is considered a Semitic language, part of the family of Afro-Asiatic languages with speakers and roots in North Africa and Southern Asia. Hebrew is related to Punic Phoenician and Moabite, all languages found in the area of the Mediterranean Sea in ancient times. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that. And I wanted to touch on this as well because this kind of goes back into what we were talking about regarding when we said Giz. When you look that up, you'll see that it's the father of languages. But here we can see Sanskrit is identified. Uh, you see here, let's just read it. So it says Sanskrit. I actually put the question in, who is the mother of all languages? And Sanskrit came up. In the beginning, Sanskrit stood as mother of all languages and encouraged all languages and was the reason for their growth and prosperity. One may note that most of the works in Sanskrit have been translated into other Indian languages, right? And so you can see the source here for that, and you can go check that. But let me show you something here because this will demonstrate that the father is also the mother. Over 100 years ago, Sir William Jones pointed out that Giz and Sanskrit writing are one and the same. He explained that this was supported by the fact that both writing systems went from left to right. Sanskrit and Giz share you. This says identical vowels. I don't know if they mean to say identical or if this is just a typo. In the same order, and the vowels were annexed to the consonants. So this is speaking to the linguistics of the languages and their similarities. And if I dig a little bit deeper, you'll see here.
And while you're pulling that up, do you remember on Clubhouse when we had the brother Hyder and Ruben, and I was building with them, showing them the connections,
I
and that we're talking about this because you're bringing up, Sanskrit and talking about this history. It's like we put in this work with individuals from around the world,
Yep.
and we're talking to them, asking them, is this true? Do you know anything about this? And when I started bringing up some of those, some of the connections, they say, yeah, we do. We know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But the history that a lot of these individuals are pushing out here in the West is because they think, and that's why I believe they use the colonizer tricks, because think about it, they're playing on the weakness or the ignorance of the brothers and sisters here in the West, because they either don't care enough to look this information up, or they don't have the means or resources to get the answers. Because if they knew that they did, they wouldn't play these games. They wouldn't be able to get away by saying some of the crazy stuff that they say out of the side of their neck just because they hold a degree. That degree means nothing if you're sitting out here lying to the people.
That's a fact. Yeah. And like so to even take it just even further, right? So speaking to some of the gentlemen you just mentioned, it says here Sanskrit. Sanskrit is an ancient Indo-Aryan language that originated in the Swat and northern Punjab regions of Pakistan. It is considered sacred by Hindus. Many languages in Pakistan, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh are derived from Sanskrit. So again, what I'm reading here is just showing a further um, depth of how far this thing goes. So it says there is no Indian etymology that explains Nagari as the name of the Sanskrit language. It is clear that Devangari means divine city or sacred city or city of God. Interesting, right? Because now we're talking
Wow.
about now we're talking about pun again. That is
Right.
why that is why the term script is placed in brackets in your definitions, meaning the urban script of the deities, divine urban script. Okay, let me continue to the next slide. Now look here, Davangari. I've already showed the slide, but Davangari is the true name of the Sanskrit, and as you can see here, the script is the same. So the mother and father of language is Giz. I challenge anyone to bring forth evidence that says different. Um, I saw only one other language I think that they said, and the reason why they didn't put Giz on this list is because some people, some scholars identify Giz as a dead language and only used in liturgical or like religious
Right.
ceremonies.
Religious census. Right, right. And it makes sense for them to do that, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to illustrate to people is that they are deliberately putting Eritrea on the back burner, if anything, not at all on any burner. They just, not even talking about it, trying to keep it on the hush. But
True.
the all truth comes to light. You can't hide it for so long. So with that being said, when we look at these connections, you will see ancient Eritreans going to these places, right? Every single one of them. So even when we look at, they would say the king of for the Greeks, right? What was his name? during the Battle of Troy. His name was King Memnon or something to that effect, is what they would call him. And
Okay.
they say he's an Ethiopian king, right?
Hmm.
But we know Ethiopia wasn't at that time doing anything close, remotely close to any of that. So it's just it's just makes you go, huh? So if it's not Ethiopia, who could it possibly be? Who are these Phoenicians? And as that slide earlier was trying to illustrate, right? It just briefly said Eritrea without really going into detail.
Yep.
But it is Eritrea, ladies and gentlemen. And I know a lot of people are gonna be so emotional, they're gonna respond without even doing research. And that's good for us because we want y'all to respond. We want you guys to come and debate us. Come and prove us wrong. Prove me wrong, please. I love to be wrong. I want to be wrong because I'm human. I'm not perfect. But
That's right.
when it comes to this history, I haven't been wrong. I've been talking to pastors, rabbis, conscious quote unquote community, which I feel like is unconscious. They're not really conscious. If you spent how many years and you keep saying the same thing, and when an individual from that location you speak of is explained to you, like, hey, look, brother, there is some information that you might want to be hip to before you start talking at the side of your neck, you
Hmm.
know? And it's crazy to me because a lot of these individuals, but I also feel like they understand that with these streams that they're monetizing it. So it's a form of business. I get it. I'm not trying to knock your hustle, but at least tell the truth while you're selling a little bit. Like give people game if you're gonna charge them, but don't charge them and give them fiat. Don't charge them and give them some the okie doke.
Hmm. So if you see what I got up on the screen right now, again, this is just lending to more antiquity. You can see Bob Walter discovered at the top, it says out of Africa migration. Bob Walter discovered the oldest evidence of stone tools near a marine environment dating at 125,000 years old. The find suggests early human ancestry migrated out of Africa north along Eritrea's Red Sea coast.
100%. And even on along that coast too, you will find animals or fish or that is only native to that part of the world in Eritrea and nowhere else. Over 200 species.
Mm, wow. So again, because the title of this particular demonstration is the origins of the ancient Egyptians. So as you can kind of see, the topic has been centered around uh, Eritrea, right? And there's a reason why. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Let me go back into these slides here. I'm gonna slide up here because here's kind of where we left off last week. I'm not sure if you remember that.
Right. I think we only got to like two slides, maybe, if that. I
Yeah.
think we
So
went
I don't
through
know if we
way more slides today than we did last time.
definitely did we touch on this one.
Let's see here. To the Babylonians people, the descendants of Ham. Um, we didn't touch yet. I got to get the book, but I can't. Let's see. Okay, so Mesopotamia, so Ethiopian and of Canaan, Mesopotamia to settle with his children on the banks of the Nile according to the Bible. So it shows where these individuals, even from Mesopotamia, come from, connecting it back to East Africa. So this book is illustrating a couple of things, and this is the opinion of all the ancient writers on the Egyptian race. So this
Oh,
is another thing of that I was using when I was trying to explain to Brother Reggie
so this
off top.
that's the source.
Yeah, so this is in Sheikh Anthony Job's book, and it's referencing uh, Gaston Maspero, 1846 to 1916. And which is odd because once again, we are here trying to rewrite the wrongs. When they use, like Brother Reggie always kept trying to tell me, oh, it said black Egypt, black Kush, black Nubia, black this, black that. We
Mhm.
never called ourselves black. Even the individual that he likes to use, right, champion, has been referenced in the book that he champions, by Sheikh Anthony Jap, talks about how they never describe themselves as being black. So
Okay.
this is just more information or evidence to show people, right, that what they're telling you is not true. Just come talk to us. That's all we're saying. Sit down, have a conversation. You what do they say? Conversation rules the nation. If you could get a little bit of game that's the truth, you could really make some changes. But a lot of people are stuck to these lies, man. It's like the truth is harder than it's hard to believe.
No, that's true. I'm checking out this source here, and I'm noticing something, and I know there's a few words missing, right? But it basically says here uh, that the unanimous testimony of ancient historians, they belonged. What does that say? To the something race.
To the Negro, to the African race, read
Okay,
Negro.
which first settled in Ethiopia. But we know what we're talking about when we say that, right? Um,
100%. Because, and this is the beauty about evidence and information, how we can jump from one thing to the next thing and we still could connect it. That's how you know it's the truth. A lie can't do that. A lie can't keep jumping from one thing to the next thing and
still
still
be
be solid.
that's right.
It can't, right?
No, that's
So
great.
what we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is many things. First of all, this author is conceding Canaan or Canaan is going to be huge too when dealing with these Israelites. So
Hmm.
it's connecting Canaan or Canaan or Cush, Ham. It's connecting Musia because we're talking about East Africa. It
Got
is
it.
connecting Mesopotamia. I mean,
What is
this
that?
thing has.
What is that
Uh-huh.
word before Nile? What is that saying before the Nile? It says after where Ethiopia's. It's got the yellow marker through it, the highlighter.
Uh, Let me
Yes.
see if I could find the book.
But the reason why I'm saying that because I just wanted to get a full picture. But it says here the Nile following the course of the river. So this would be following the Yam Suf, correct?
100%.
And it says they gradually maybe get to the Red Sea. Moreover, the Bible states that Misraim, son of Cush, right, or
Hmm.
son of Ham,
Right.
uh, and then it says what is that? Brother of Cush, the
Brother of Cush. Yeah. And then it says the Ethiopian end of Canaan.
and okay, okay, and
Hmm.
so this is telling you where Misraim comes from. That Misraim, son of Ham, right, who is the brother of Cush. So if
Right.
this is basically saying that because this is also connecting to let me see, bring it up. Okay, because it touches on it here. So according to the Bible, Egypt was peopled by the what does that say? Offshore. I'm not sure what that word is. Ancestors of the blacks, the descendants of Ham and Mizraim, Foot and Canaan, the descendants of Cush, right? So it's saying that all of these people and the Canaanites, right, are the, if you will, the ancient people of what is called Israel today, right? So these are descendants of the ancient Cushites. These are Africans that we're talking about. And I heard the brother really trying to say, "Oh, y'all are Hamites." Well, according to this information, Hamites and Canaanites and Mizraim, the Cushites are all family.
Right. And if they what's crazy though is To say yeah, Canaanites, well then, where does that line come from, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
does their line really come from? So see, they don't even know their own history. They sitting here talking about Babel. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, y'all gonna end up like that place. Because at the end of the day, you're not putting the right information out. We've already established Hebrew is not even older than the oldest Semitic language is. We're also showing it's in a geographical location in East Africa. There's only so many kingdoms in ancient time, right? So we're not only showing that, but then showing the connection of ancient Gips, right, or Gipsy back into the land of Point or into Eritrea. Okay, we're also showing that in later times, we're going to show the connection of Nimrod. We're going to break down Sargon, right? Because that's that
Mhm.
Mesopotamia that they're alluding to right now. And
Yep.
they're
I
going to
mean,
show you how they were speaking a certain Semitic language.
so look at the bottom of this page, right? And I know again it's cut off on both sides here, but it says people of the Near East, Mizraim, still designated the entire coast of Palestine and Phoenicia, right? And I can't see Sinai, probably the site from which Nimrod left for Western Asia, and it's a blank there, the kingdom of Nubia. So it's saying Nimrod came from Nubia and went
Right.
to Western Asia. Bro,
And
this
then
is
and we know where Western Asia is, but when we then look into Nimrod and where they say he's from, then we're gonna go to a place. We're gonna. I think we got to break down Nakata. And I have a couple of not slides, but some evidence, some information on this and these individuals of who they are and why there's an actual Sphinx in Eritrea. So when people get the book, it's called Archaeology of Ancient Eritrea. It has a sphinx on the cover of that book, right? And it's like a 700-page book, but it gives you a pretty amazing dive on certain things. So that's something I also recommend people to pick up because I know that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, people on the, quote unquote conscious community like to say source up. Well, we're giving you guys the sources. And don't forget too, since we're speaking of sources, I would be a primary source born over there, that can still speak the language that we're connecting the dots to. So, ladies and gentlemen, please don't let these people fool you, right? They have never even been to Eritrea. I don't think majority of them even been to Ethiopia. I don't think a majority of them even been to all of Sudan or parts of Sudan. They definitely might have a couple of them gone to Egypt, but um, when it comes to that upper Nile or however you look at it, depending on the flow of the Nile, they have not touched on it. Because you can play any video going back 8 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They've never said anything.
indeed. So look at this. This is another slide that you sent me, and notice what's highlighted here. I don't know.
Abyssinia,
You see,
Abyssinia,
you see
and
that, right?
Abyssinia. Yeah.
The
So when
first
people,
inhabited Egypt, that is the Nile Valley between the Syrian Cataract and the sea, came from Abyssinia to Sinai.
two. So what it means is, and that's what I've always said, and you can quote me on this because you've heard me say that maps of ancient Eritrea were much larger in ancient times. So it started from Abyssinia up. Now, if you ask most people, they'll say, "Oh no, I pulled up a map, and Abyssinia is in Ethiopia." Well, pull up that map even larger because you'll see that the majority of that knowledge actually comes from the Eritrea side, which they have so um, conveniently drawn in.
So let's be clear. So let's make some clarity for the people that during this time that we're talking about, the term Ethiopia didn't even exist.
Right.
Period. What? So this is referencing like if I'm, and I'm being very, how should I say, like I'm being very, like I'm not using the full age that I could use. I'm not going back as far as I could go because I want to be generous to a point, but I want to be um, what's the word I'm looking for. What do Republicans call themselves? They call themselves conservative. There you go. Thank you. I want to be conservative with my estimate. with my estimates here, and because I found a source earlier that said about 5000 BC when referencing this goings on. However, there's enough evidence to say that at 5000 BC, that the what we know today as the Egyptian calendar had already been developed, which takes at least 10,000 years to build, based on just using your eyes, and whatever technology they had that we're not aware of, to do the calculations and the observations, to create such a calendar and such a perfectly tuned calendar. So, so to me, this is quite clear. I mean, we kind of already answered it, but boom, the people come out of Eritrea, and in fact, let me pull up something else real quick. Because what did that say? Abyssinia.
Yeah,
Of
you
course,
can
like,
even pull up a map of Abyssinia and show them.
oh, look, I already got you. That's look. Let me, I went and bro, I was pulling it up. I got the most in here. Oh, let me see here. All right. I don't know how clear that. It might not be too clear. But one thing I notice here, and I did notice when I pulled this up, is that under the country where Abyssinia, it says not only Ethiopia but Eritrea. If you can see that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And when we look at that, uh, that's just showing you it's just them kind of coattail riding. They riding our coattails because to be considered great like that, why is that the dominant language that is spoken in Ethiopia today predominantly comes from Eritrea? It doesn't even come from them. So when they talk about their ancient kingdoms or
Go in for a
Abyssinia,
second.
it,
Go ahead and go in for a
uh
second. I'll be right back.
right. So when they're talking about Abyssinia, you just have to ask them, well, then what is it so great that they accomplish, the feats that they accomplish? You won't find anything. Even their old kingdoms, you will find that the understanding of stone building from Edita, because once again, we've already established that the oldest archaeological site and symbol in all this East Africa, right? We've already established as far as knowledge and spirituality. We had the first church and mosque, So we're starting to see a whole lot of information that we're going to connect going back to Edita, the Periplus of the Eritrean Sea. Herodotus himself has been quoted talking about Edita plenty of times. There's a book about a throne, right? It's called The Throne of Abydos. And it illustrates how there is a throne and there's an inscription. And inscription is written in Ge'ez, right? And even that 5,000 years, I would say it's much older because once again, we got to remember, what did Dr. Ben say? Dr. Ben said that Egypt is the daughter of a different location. Well, it's not the Ethiopia, obviously, because Ethiopia at that time wasn't doing anything nearly as close to what Eritrea was doing. Matter of fact, the maps of Ethiopia, when we think of it today, didn't even look like yesterday. We just broke down Abyssinia because they weren't even calling it Ethiopia. So when we see this and its focal point is stationed in Eritrea, we know, right, when we get that book and we read it and we see that this journey that was made by a king going north, east, west, and south. And then you go into Yemen. And when you go into Yemen, if you can read, right, or read in Arabic or speak Arabic, then you might be able to speak with some individuals from Yemen and you will start to unravel some more connections, which will illustrate and show you that exact route that the king had taken, right, in that book that they're telling you about. So that cannot be a huge coincidence that we have individuals on that side, especially when you're dealing with the Sabian, right? When you're dealing with the old South Arabian script, right? You're going to find that in Editor. So, and let's not forget, when you say Yemen, Yamanka in our language, it's the same direction of where it is now. So these are just some of the connections and the dots that we're trying to connect for people, going against the grain 100% because nobody is saying this. You're only getting it here first 100%. I
Bro.
think,
Yeah, no, I was back and I forgot to turn turn my mic back on.
no,
But
you,
no, I put up the slide for the Sabines, um, just a little bit on that, just to give people an idea of what you're talking about. Because this is when you really do the math and you look at the kingdoms, the successive kingdoms. And one thing I noticed doing the research, um, it's always been like the kingdom of the Red Sea. You know what I mean? Um, let me go back. Let me go back here for 1 second, and maybe you can give me some more insight on this because this information is kind of new. I think I've heard you say this word before. Um, so maybe you can give us some more insight. Can you see that? Oh, I lost my brother. Um, it's all good. He'll probably just jump back on. But this is some history here. This is some civics, if you will. The Kingdom of Medri Bahri, Africa's first democracy, was in Eritrea. Medri Bahri, Africa's first democracy. Medri Bahri, land of the sea, was an independent Eritrean kingdom between 1137 and 1890. Its capital was in Debarwa. What made this kingdom so unique were the people of Medri Bahri had a sophisticated political process in which they elected their kings to power. Once elected, the king was bestowed the title of Bahri Nagasi, or Sea King. Every village and town in Medri Bahri elected their own king, with the king in Dabara being the king of kings. To prevent a monarchy, the immediate families of the elected kings in Dabara were prohibited from being future kings. Moreover, to prevent abuse of power, the king's powers were limited by the laws of the land, making Medri Bari the first republic kingdom in Africa. Phew, it was deep. But I think we have abundantly proven our point here, um, as far as who or where the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, come from, or rather, the origins of the ancient Egyptians. There are more sources, there's way more information that I could share regarding this. But we're going to just keep it there for now. We've been on for about an hour and a half. I pray everyone has been able to learn something. I could go a lot deeper on a few of these topics that we touch, and I can go into more sources. But I'll save this information for another time. I don't want to belabor any of the points. And matter of fact, I didn't even check to see if anybody put any questions in the chat, and I think I do see one. Okay, all right. Salam, salam. Well, with that being said, family, I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna play a commercial uh, from my company, and then we're gonna close this out. With that, I say peace and love. Uh, please hit the like button. Please share this information. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We are doing our best to bring you consistent information better than we have in the past. So the more feedback we get, that's gonna, you know, cause me to want to give more information and do more uh, demonstrations like this for the people that actually, get something from this. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, any concerns, please leave it in the comments, or you can reach out to us directly, and we'll see you next time.
Greetings, peace and love, and welcome to Smile Pharmacy Apothecary. We've been here since 2019, and although times have changed and healthcare has evolved, our traditions of compassion and professionalism thrives on. You are always at the heart of what we do. Smile Pharmacy, we heal. Visit us today online or in store at smilepharmacy.com.
All right. So definitely check us out. We definitely we have what you need. If you're dealing with anything, if you need a consultation, please feel free to give us a call, visit us online, etc. Um, Peace.